Welcome in to Double A Baseball. Adam Oppenheim with Alex Hynes here on Friday, August 29th. The wild card races are heating up in both the AL and the NL, but let's take a step back. We've talked a ton about the wild card teams. And once we get into the postseason picture, that's all we're going to talk about. And let's discuss the NL and AL MVP races. Both have tightened up. Let's start in the NL, because why not? Shohei Ohtani is the favorite, but Kyle Schwarber, 4 home runs last night.
It's so interesting just with both of these races. Obviously, we'll touch on the AL as well, but just the fact that you've got the incumbent, you've got the Judge and Ohtani's, and the question of can somebody in a very unique position, when you look at both Cal Raleigh and Kyle Schwarber, dethrone them. And Kyle Schwarber is such an unusual case to make against Ohtani, who again is back to pitching. He had a great outing a couple of days ago. It hadn't been great for him in a lot of his first outings, but I mean, I'm not sure you can really blame him with the workload he's had as a hitter, then going back to two-way. But I mean, hey, Kyle Schwarber, four-homer game yesterday. I mean, if there's any way to kind of cement yourself, you kind of need that big moment, even though it really won't necessarily mean anything the same way it may in other sports to have a crowning achievement in an MVP season. But certainly, like that's got to then weigh in your head and think for voters, well, I mean, he has done things this year that very few people have done. He's cranking homers left, right, and center. He's going to end up with 50 by the end of this week, probably. And I mean, you're talking about a guy that very well could reach 60 homers this year. And again, that has already been a pretty, you know, impossible milestone outside of very select other names.
Yeah, and he makes it look really easy
Oh,
and
yeah.
just hits the ball hard. There are no cheap home runs with him. Hits his fourth one of the opposite fields. He's closing in on a lot of the stats that Ohtani was heavily favored in. WAR is 5.6 to 4.4. The slugging and the OPS has become closer. OPS plus has become closer. So that's the big thing is Schwarber has to get to Ohtani's stats, maybe a little bit better considering Ohtani's pitching. But then if their stats are similar and Ohtani isn't great on the mound, then it's really a toss-up because neither play the field.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Remember when last year we were talking about how it would be impossible for a DH to win the MVP, and then Otani made it very clear that it was possible. And now we're talking essentially about let's
Two of
say
them.
we'll talk about two DHs because I Otani's
Yeah.
pitching. I don't think it's going to do enough to move the needle. Sure, he'll have some good outings. I mean, pitching in general will do something, but we're not talking about the Angels pitching Otani that he was a couple years ago. Maybe he will be that next year, but in this season, he's only thrown for half a year. He's been limited for most of the time he even has been pitching. So you're talking about two DHs. The problem for me, though, is that Otani is still hitting to those high marks. I mean, 45 homers, and the fact that his WRC plus is still higher than Kyle Schwarber's. He is still, compared to league average, hitting at a better rate. And so it's going to be really hard to make that argument, given that the pitching does just enough probably to move the needle. But again, you're talking about a point in both races where is there voter fatigue, rightfully or not, that could lead to much more compelling candidates that you have this year being deeper in consideration than you would have had in a previous year where the second best option is realistically not very close, unlike this year.
Well, the AL MVP race is a little bit closer. That's because Cal Raleigh has had one heck of a season. And obviously, Aaron Judge is the other candidate. Yeah, I mean, I think here there's a chance that Cal Raleigh could actually win the MVP. Feels like all the storylines are on his side, even though Aaron Judge is, I think, having a better season. And I don't think it's that close. I mean, Judge was out with the injury, but he still has 7.1 WAR this year compared to Raleigh's 5.6. The thing is, Cal Raleigh's behind the plate, but I mean, that's kind of factored into all this stuff.
B War though, B War is not is the B
Yeah,
War discrepancy amongst catchers. They're both above 7 if you look at
yeah.
fan graphs. So again, got it. Depending on your
Right.
sources, for sure.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And the power is obviously there for both guys. I think if there's a year for Cal Raleigh to win the MVP, I mean, it has to be this year. He has 50 home runs. Just been absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I would like to see Raleigh win. I think at this point, Judge should still be the favorite, though.
Well, and again, I think this is where, you're getting to that very difficult decision where with Schwarber and Ohtani, it's a bit more apples to apples. Again, the pitching aspect is a bit of a tweak, but still, two DHs, the power hitting potential of two guys. Ohtani's not stealing bases like he was last year. It's a bit easier to compare guys, but it's so much harder. Again, you're considering positional versatility. You're considering positional records being broken with Raleigh now has hit the most homers by a catcher in a season. He still has over a month to go. 50 homers by a catcher is, again, unheard of. It
Yep.
literally has never happened.
Nope.
Switch hitting versatility. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's done pretty much everything you could possibly ask for from a catcher. But again, I agree with you that it's kind of hard though to look at Aaron Judge and say that's not an MVP season. I mean, it kind of reminds me a little bit of that 62 homer season for Judge where he won it and unreasonably so. I mean, he led the league in WAR that year. But then it was that race between him and Ohtani, remember? And you were arguing between the guy that had the ungodly offensive season and had the home run mark to his name against Ohtani being an elite pitcher and elite hitter, and you had to consider something that was a bit harder to quantify.
Yeah.
And
It's
that
a,
feels like what you're getting here, where Aaron Judge is easily quantifiable. The dude hits bombs. He is hitting, he's having another absurd offensive season. And then Cal Raleigh is a catcher where you really don't know how to evaluate catchers. We're still trying to figure that out. And he's putting up numbers that are hard for you to argue against. So again, whether I would say that I think Raleigh deserves to win or not, maybe before we round this out, we'll actually make our predictions. But it's so hard for me to argue one way or the other, just because it is so hard to compare what the two have done.
well, if we're gonna make predictions, I'll just go Judge and Ohtani.
And that's the thing. Do we really have a genuine like? How much of an argument could we make for Schwarber or Raleigh? Again, I know arguments will be there. People will make the arguments, and it won't be unanimous either way, I'm sure. But when we get to the end of the year, do you think it's really going to be as close as people are trying to make it sound, where it'll be maybe neck and neck, first place votes are close, or is it going to be a case of, yeah, Schwarber and Raleigh get, a handful of first place votes, but it is comfortably in the hands of Judge and Ohtani?
I mean, how about if Raleigh gets 65 home runs or something?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's an
That's the
obvious
way he wins.
question.
I mean,
That's fair.
okay,
I'm it's just hard for me because go ahead. I'll
I
talk
was
about
gonna
that later.
I was gonna move on. I was like, there isn't that
I
much more
guess
at this point. I mean,
the
we'll see how.
last thing though I just have
Yeah,
about Judge. I was looking, he's at a 193 WRC plus. He was over 200 recently. But again, him and Raleigh have not been great in the second half. It's funny. Either one of those guys, if they've had a good second half, could, really just kind of take things and run it forward. But they've been much lower down the offensive production recently. And again, that's going to be carrying their value. But I mean, Aaron Judge, I was just looking. All right, WRC plus leaders since integration in 1947. 193 from Judge would put him tied for 28th, which is pretty impressive since, integration. That's now 78 years of baseball history, if my math's right. Um, but if you look at just in the 21st century, there are only eight of them, if my math is right, which it probably is not, but we'll say it is. Barry Bonds four times, Aaron Judge himself when he hit 62 homers, Juan Soto in 2020, which really doesn't count, Bryce Harper's insane 2015 MVP season, and Miguel Cabrera in 2013 when he won MVP, not the Triple Crown year. I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with that list in terms of who would win MVP. All of those guys were MVPs except for Juan Soto, shortened season. That's garbage. Don't care. And other than that, actually, Jason Giambi was in there too. Giambi was the only one that didn't actually win MVP in a full season out of that list, and he had a 10 WAR season and should have. So, you know, the precedent is going to make it very hard to argue against Judge, but Cal Raleigh is having one of those like it's like the oh gosh, what year was Vlad Guerrero in that tight MVP race, and then it just didn't happen for him. I can't remember, but that's kind of what I'm getting out of this.
That's interesting. I mean, the thing is, there's still a ton of games left to play, and that will decide.
Exactly.
I mean, if Schwarber has another 4 home run game, I think that could flip
You know,
chance in
I
his
mean,
favor.
if he
Hot
can hit
take right
another four
there.
homer game, he would be the first person to do it. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't bet against him, that's for sure.
Let's talk Cy Young race. Let's start in the NL. It's pretty easy that it's going to be Paul Skeens this year. Christopher Sanchez probably going to finish second.
Which pains me a little bit. And I was talking about this with you before we started. The fact that I am just so disappointed that Zach Wheeler got hurt. It was
Yeah.
the thoracic outlet syndrome that ends his season. It sees him out for a long time too. Which obviously that's not that's a very big injury, a very potentially career altering injury. But again, you're just from the selfish perspective of thinking, man, I'm you know me. I have been the biggest I need Zach Wheeler to win a Cy Young Award guy. I've been
Yeah.
saying he was going to win it for the last 3 years. I've been on record saying that, man, I thought this would have been his year to do it. And he was right there until the end. And I mean, him, Christopher Sanchez, Paul Skeens. But I mean, Skeens has a 2.0 something ERA. I mean, come on, he's not going to blow up enough unless he plays the Brewers every time, apparently, because that's the only team that knows how to hit him. But other than that, it's just there's no feasible way in my mind that he gives up enough runs to see that drop.
Yeah, there's no chance at this point. Christopher Sanchez strikeout numbers have been great, but then, I mean, Skeens puts up insane numbers too.
Which
So,
that's
yeah.
just so unfortunate too, because I mean, again, Christopher Sanchez 2.66 ERA. I mean, he is having a year where it's such a less flukier year than remember Ranger Suarez, who kind of did the same kind of coming out of nowhere for the Phillies, great
Yeah.
ERA season, but regression hit him and just didn't have quite quite the stuff, and he really has been a non-factor this year. Christopher Sanchez, it feels like he's had everything working and been so deserving. Him and Wheeler both. And again, it's just unfortunate that they're going to both finish shy of it. But I mean, it's Skeens is the man of the hour.
Yeah, the Wheeler injury just so unfortunate for the season for the Phillies and for his career. Um, that's one of those injuries where you don't know if you're going to be the same, and that's definitely a
Especially
scary
his
thing
age.
when you're a professional athlete to have an injury like that. So
Still should have won the 2021 Cy Young. All I'm saying.
let's move to the American League Cy Young, where now the race is pretty much a coin flip. Tarek Skubal, Garrett Crochet, those are your top two right now.
I find it very hard to argue against Tarek Skubal is the thing. I mean, now again, it's not like last year when we had two Triple Crown winners. I mean, it was that one was cut and dry by like beginning of August, basically. I mean, last year he had it sorted. Crochet though has continue to be, I don't necessarily want to say under the radar because I mean it's not like he's pitching for a nobody. He's pitching for the Red Sox. He's having a great year. It's been consistent, but I think some of it has been a little bit less seen just because the Red Sox haven't been the team like the Tigers were at the beginning of the year, where they were the best team in baseball and they're still one of the best teams in baseball. And so Crochet, I think, has kind of gone unheralded at times, but his ability to work deep into games, I think, is something that really should be noticed. I mean, Skubal has as well, but you're talking about a guy with over 170 innings at this point in the year. He could get maybe not to 200, but he could get up there depending on how many starts he'd have left over the final month. So I think that in itself is something that's just worthy of praise, even if he's not going to win the award.
Yeah, for sure. I think at this point the difference is the runners. Um, they give up, and Tarek Skubal just does not give up runners. Whip well under one, and I think that's the difference for me. And all of Skubal's pitches are just absolutely excellent.
His
Garrett
changeup, I
Crochet.
think, is the best pitch in baseball.
What'd you
I
say?
think that his changeup is
Yeah,
every metric that people have used to evaluate it says it's the best pitch in baseball. I mean, you watch it, it's just absurd. He could tell you it's coming. It's one of those pitches.
yeah. Changeup 161 hitters are hitting against it this year. I'll say Christopher Sanchez's changeup too has been really good this year. If I was to mention another changeup, some other interesting notable people in the American League Cy Young race. Hunter Brown has had an underrated, really good year. Jacob deGrom,
Yeah, I
bounce
feel like
back
no one's
season.
talked about that. I know he's only thrown 145 innings compared to which is like 30 less than Crochet, 20 less than Skubal. But even though he's not in the race, can we at least talk about the fact that Jacob deGrom is kind of back?
Yeah, pretty cool. I'll say this. I mean, the Rangers would have been dangerous if they could find a way to make the postseason, but now Nate Eovaldi's out for the year as well, and he was
That's a
someone
brutal injury.
if he could stack more innings, and he would be in the Cy Young race as well.
Because yeah, he's not qualified, right?
Nope, I don't.
How
I
many?
mean, even if he was, he just now he
Yeah, he threw 130 innings with a 1.73 ERA.
yeah, and most of it
Oh,
was in
brother.
the last start, um, or one start he had.
Yeah,
5 earned runs against the Diamondbacks. He had a 1.38 before then. Who knew it would be the
that's a
Diamond?
shame. The thing
Yeah.
is, he was always he felt like he was more of an innings eater guy, which kind of made him more valuable as a guy that he could kind of go deep into games and be a bit more consistent last year. And obviously, this year injuries can prevent him from doing that. So that's a bit unfortunate for a guy that, again, it's one of those where it's kind of like Zach Wheeler, where he just, you know, what you know him for is the one thing that won't happen to him because he doesn't stay healthy, which is, again, not necessarily a common occurrence for him.
Nope, it's not. One more name I'll mention, Aroldis Chapman. I think he's gonna might get back end Cy Young votes. He had
That's
41
crazy to
straight
think of.
batters without a hit. I mean, what is look at his baseball savant page and just watch him pitch. He just doesn't walk batters now. I think every team who had him before, the Pirates, the Royals, the Cubs, the Yankees, they're like, all right, Aroldis Chapman would be sick if he didn't walk every batter. And now he has a
I mean,
7% walk rate.
it was 14% in it was at least 14% the last 4 years. I
Yeah.
mean, he is, the last time he had a seven walk rate or lower was, I mean, and well, not in the Statcast era, but even the best he had had before that was eight when he was in the Yankees to Cubs 2016, which is quite funny because I remember that command being uh, I remember the bad outings a bit more than I remember the good outings
Yeah,
at times
same.
with 2016 Chapman, but
I mean,
still.
that's why I mentioned it, but the year he's having is just otherworldly. 1.04 ERA, 0.67 whip.
The one thing I will say, I feel like the problem is going to be, I mean, I don't want to say the problem, but it's going to be a bit more difficult, I think, just because he doesn't have the saves the same way. I mean, remember Class A,
Oh
that
yeah.
sub one ERA he had. Now, granted, he got way more votes than I think Chapman would get, even if he had that, because it was just such an aberration of a season from a closer. But I do think that may make it a bit more difficult for him to get into that, handful of back end votes range. If he gets like 35, you're talking something that seems feasible, but he's at 26 right now. So we'll see how many close games the Red Sox play in. If that offense decides it wants to do things, but
Yeah, yeah, truly. That's the reason he gets a lot of these opportunities is the Red Sox can't score. I think I can go over, a Devers rant another time. But the truth is, um, and everyone's talking about how good the Red Sox are, but realistically, it's because the pitching staff has been so good. It hasn't been their offense.
Brian
Um,
Bayo, 2.99 ERA,
yeah,
that shocked me.
Brian Bayo's been really good, even though advanced analytics, boy, they hate the guy. Doesn't strike out anyone. But yeah, he's good. He's
It,
also a
it
Yankees
always works
starter.
for one season.
Yeah.
Then things catch up to you.
I mean, hey, it's kind of like Pedro. Got the Pedro changeup. Not kind of like Pedro as in one season, because that would be the opposite. But yeah. So let's move on to talking about possibly 500 home runs. Stanton and Schwarber are somewhat close.
I've seen
Wh-
this conversation, and
What do
that's
you
kind of
think
what
about the Hall of Famer conversation?
because this all sparked in my mind from social media conversation of if so and so hits 500 homers, are they a Hall of Famer? When you're talking about guys like Stanton and Schwarber, their career wise, they don't necessarily have the typical path of a Hall of Famer. I mean, you're not talking about a guy that, I mean, Stanton's ability to stay on the field has not helped his case. And you're talking about guys that I don't want to say have one tool because I think that's a bit unfair, but they are known for their power and almost exclusively their power. Basically, there's no defense there, especially in Schwarber's case where he's a DH, basically for the last 3, 4 years or more than that, actually.
Yeah,
Um, and other than that, you're not talking about, really anything else outside of, hey, that boy hits bombs, which has a valid case. And I mean,
yeah.
Stan's at 440 something homers. Schwarber is at 330 something, 333, I think. Both guys
333. Stanton is at
at
446.
446.
And
Okay,
he's
yeah.
2 years
So,
older, at least, I think.
oh yeah, more than that.
Um,
Stan won his MVP before Schwarber was, or right when Schwarber was
sorry,
in
three
his
years
second full
older.
season. Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
but I mean, both of them I think can get to 500. Stan's gonna take a little bit more work. That's gonna require basically his whole body to stay healthy, which is
Ye-
not a guarantee. But
I
I
mean,
mean, 20 homers in the next 3 years, which is asking a bit much, but it's not unreasonable.
he hits the ball just so hard that it has the ability to go out in any stadium. Schwarber, same thing, but they have both a lot of no doubt home runs. And the key for me would be Stanton staying on the field. He doesn't really run now, hasn't the past couple years,
Right,
nowhere to stay healthy. Really hasn't played the fields until recently because Judge has been unable to play right field. But once Judge is back, Stanton's the
right.
DH. So,
But and the thing with Stan, I guess first off, our discussion is do they get to 500 homers before we even talk about Hall of Fame? But I mean, he's going to probably hit 20 homers at least. He's at 17 right now. The previous 2 years, 24, 27 homers playing under 120 games. I mean, that rate is not terrible if you're talking about making up 50 homers, let's say, in his maybe not final 2 seasons, but his next 2 seasons at age 36, 37. I think he does reach 500 mark.
I agree. I
And if
think he's
Schwarber
gonna.
keeps hitting tanks.
I think Schwarber could get there too.
Oh, yeah.
You think about it, it might be tougher to age, but when you don't play the field, that helps your chances. So let's say he hits. Realistically, throughout the past 4 years, I don't expect him to have a ton more like 46 plus homer years. But if he stays in the 37, 38 range for 4 years, he's going to end up being pretty close. 4 more years. And then he just has, a couple years where he hits, 20. The thing is, in a down year for Kyle Schwarber, how many home runs is he realistically still going to hit? Like 20,
And,
25,
yeah. And
like
even then, I
30.
mean, he's not hit fewer than 30 since uh in a full season since 2018.
He could wake up in his sleep and just hit homers. And the thing is, he takes
Yeah,
walks too. So pitchers are forced to throw him strikes.
exactly.
Eh,
And I mean, especially if we'll see where he ends up going because I think that's a big piece as well. If he stays in Philly, for example, if they just say, "Hey, we want you to stay here," when you have Bryce Harper around him in the lineup at the very least, not even considering anybody else on that team, he's going to have either be the protection or have the protection, which means that there's a high chance that you're going to have to pitch to him. So I think that will help him as well if he goes to the right lineup elsewhere, even. And again, the right ballpark. Philly is a pretty well made ballpark for a lefty power bat. And I mean, Harper and Schwarber both have benefited well from that. So I think in the right situation, this is a contract year for him. I think as long as he chooses the right team to sign with long term, I don't think he'll have a problem with anything outside of his own health. And there's no indication that Schwarber's going to have any issues with that. He has not had really any injury issues to speak of since he went to Philly and before,
And
really.
yeah, that's a good point. The injury issues. I mean, that's what happens when you don't really play the field, though.
Sure.
That that
Huh?
that's where a lot of injuries can happen. Crashing into
That's
the
the trick.
wall. Yeah, if he was playing left field. But I do think it's really hard to keep someone out of the Hall of Fame if they had 500 home runs. I'll say that back to our original question.
Right. And that's kind of where the question was for me. I think I'm having a hard time to make that argument simply because I mean you look at a guy that is essentially DH. I mean, Stan's a bit different in case he does have an MVP. He actually had that prime where he was not a full well-rounded player, but I mean he was more mobile than he was at times. And again, he had a bit more of the overall impact, whereas Schwarber kind of gives the Adam Dunn vibes, except just he is performing way better. He's striking out less than an Adam Dunn. He's walking still at a good rate, and he hits homers just as well as say an Adam Dunn type guy. Um, and so now again, you hit 500 homers. You look at that list, the guys that aren't in the Hall of Fame. I think you could figure out who they all are, but it's Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGuire, Rafael Palmeiro, Manny Ramirez, and Gary Sheffield when it comes to steroid concerns.
Right.
Though Sheffield is the bit of that moral gray area. I think he's the one guy that really has a bit more of a closer argument there. And then obviously Miguel Cabrera, Albert Pujols, who are both going to be shooing Hall of Famers
Yeah.
for obvious reasons. So it is kind of hard to argue precedent wise, but we haven't seen a type of player like certainly like Kyle Schwarber, but even like Giancarlo Stanton late career, really at all. I mean, maybe you could argue I mean, because even like Jim Thome, for example, pure power guy, still was playing first base. He still had a bit more
Jim
to him.
Thome. Yeah, I didn't think of. That's a really good point.
But I mean, he's about the closest I could think. But he also had 600 homers, and he also, I think, had a bit more. I don't want to say impactful of a career. I think that's a bit unfair, but just I think he did a little bit more that made him a Hall of Famer without it being purely home run based.
I like the Jim Thome comparison. I like that a lot. Although Hynes finished in MVP was fourth, and Schwarber actually hasn't finished very high in MVP at all until this year.
Right.
So,
Well, and that's where again I think Tomey had a bit more to him at times. I mean, he was still. I mean, he was putting up 1,000 OPS seasons at a bit higher of a rate. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's getting on. Who again, Schwarber walks a lot, but the on base percentage was higher for Tomey, especially his early career. He kind of racked up enough to kind of coast when he went on to his Phillies, White Sox, and then kind of journeyman years after he reached his 30s, right about where Schwarber is age wise right now.
all right. So we're saying both get to 500.
It's so hard for me to make the argument because it kind of like tugs against what I feel like is valid. I'm more of I'm not a big hole guy like some people are, um, but it's hard to make an argument against it. I think though they have to hit 500 because otherwise you're talking Adam Dunn, Dave Kingman, that style of guy who was simply just I hit bombs, I go sit down, I go back up, I hit bombs.
So you think they both need to get 500, and they both
Yeah,
will get 500?
I think they both will. I think they both will get
Okay,
500. Stan's case I think will be easier because he has that MVP to his name and because I think his early career
Miami
will really help
or
him given,
Florida.
the 30 homer seasons he racked up. He had a second place finish in MVP as well. Um, whereas Schwarber, I think really will need the 500 homers to really carry him a bit more, but we may see already a change of the philosophy in the Hall of Fame by the time he's even a consideration if he reaches 500. So it's kind of hard to tell what voters are going to think in what 20 years, but um, based on today's standards, it's a bit more of a toss up than I think it can be or should be.
All right. Well, we both agree there. So let's move on To our final segments, oh no, and AA plus. I'm going to go first with my AA plus top three plays of the week. Starting off at number three, bases loaded for Teoscar Hernandez. Hits a fly ball out to deep center field. Ramon Laureano robs the home run, the grand slam for the Dodgers. Huge trade deadline acquisition by the Padres. He's been hitting really well and also has a really good glove out in center field. Now over to number two. This is a play you don't see super often, and it's a middle infielder changing direction on the fly. Runner on first with one out. Giants and the Cubs. Runners taken off for second. Cubs shortstop Dansby Swanson has to cover the bag at second. Now the ball's hit where he was playing, dives back on his backside, makes a nice throw over to first on a hop. That is not an easy play to change direction on the fly, and that is the number two play. And obviously, at number one, how was this our third four homer game of the year? There hasn't been one since 2017, and now this is the third. It's Kyle Schwarber, who hits four absolute tanks, including the last one to the opposite field. This guy's unbelievable. Hits the ball so hard, leaves no doubt that the ball will easily leave the ballpark. Had a chance at a fifth home run off a position player. Kyle Schwarber, though, is only an ethical home run hitter, so he didn't like that opportunity. But man, Kyle Schwarber, unbelievable. Another four homer game in the MLB. This thing is so rare, but it's awesome to see it happen. Kyle Schwarber getting himself back into the MVP race too in the NL.
We're having like that 2012 season where there were three perfect games in a year with Humber, Felix, and Matt Cain. And this is just what it is with four homer games. It's absurd. 21 total. We've got what, a seventh of them this year?
Yeah, no, it's fun. And remember, I was looking back at the list. Scooter Jeanette had a four homer game.
Yeah.
I will never forget that. But that was
Adam
before
Wainwright was
JD.
the pitcher. I was looking that up today.
Yeah, yeah. But that was
Shout out
before
St.
JD
Louis.
Martinez, who is a little bit more well known.
A bit more so, you know. Well, hey, we'll all remember Kyle Schwarber forever, especially if he makes the Hall of Fame. Just saying. Well, let's move on to our worst of the week, the fun, the weird, the dumb. Let's start out in Chase Field. We'll talk about Noel V. Marte. You may recall, I think it was our last show, in fact, he made the list for a Little League homer. Well, he did it again, folks, against Zach Gallen. He hits one out deep into center field. Chase Field can give you some wonky bumps off the wall, and he's able to chug around second, go to third. The relay throw comes in. It skips past the third baseman all the way to the sidewall, and Marte can scamper on home with ease. It's not quite as dumb as the first one he had, but man, how did it happen for one guy twice? Maybe just a little bit of extra luck for Noel V. Marte. We keep it here in the NL Central. We now go into St. Louis Busch Stadium. They've had a lot of frustration around that team this year, and Wilson Contreras let it boil a little bit. He's a bit upset about a called strike three, which, by the way, was in the K zone, but he then completely loses it at home plate, completely bursts on the home plate umpire, continues to yell, 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 and eventually ends up chucking his bat backwards. I'm not quite sure he was looking where it was going. It ended up hitting his bench coach, Brant Brown, as he threw it towards home plate. And then he ended up throwing all the bubble gum onto the field as well. It was the biggest kind of blow up we've seen in several years. So a lot more has gone wrong, let's just say, in St. Louis. And then number one, it's Lawrence Butler at the plate against the Tigers. He pops one up. There's a runner on first with nobody out. Pops it way up. He's thinking, ah, man, that's a lazy pop up. It's in foul territory. He does a little do-si-do around home plate, and then suddenly it lands in fair territory. The throw goes down to second for one. They throw to first, and Lawrence Butler, 10 seconds after he hit the baseball, is doubled up at first base. I mean, you got to run it out, man, even on a lazy pop fly. And that, a 10-second time from home to first, which is probably about a Trey Turner trip around the bases, I would have to guess.
That was awful. Those bottom two. I mean, the Wilson Contreras one, he threw bubble gum too. Like, what are you doing, brother? Like,
Hitting your own bench coach with the bat is a choice.
dude, that's next level, brother. And Lawrence Butler, yeah, that's a play where you definitely get benched the next game. That's not a
He
good
did a
look.
full promenade of home plate before he even started running.
Yeah, I don't get at this point why are players not running at first. It's the same thing as why is someone going into the end zone dropping the ball before they cross the goal line? Like it makes no sense. It's just like a common
Yeah.
part of the sport. What you do is you just like run to first or you cross the goal line with the ball. Like wow, crazy concept, right?
So are we getting a football comparison this time? We had the Andre Curbelo
Yeah,
comp
no,
from you
who
last
is your
time.
football
So
comparison? Let's hear it.
oh, you're putting the wrong person on the spot here.
Uh
Wasn't there somebody on the Eagles that dropped the football before reaching the end zone?
Nelson Aguilar?
Yeah, sure, that was probably who it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. Play the clip of that guy on the news.
My man just started throwing babies out the window. We was catching them, unlike Aguilar and his mishaps. I like to put that out there.
Yeah, unreal. Well, that's gonna wrap it up here on Double
We'll get a
A
better comp next
Baseball.
week.
For my partner, Alex Hynes, I'm Adam Oppenheim. We'll see you next time on Double A Baseball.